All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to try to make a quick TBC pre-patch guide. I've done a bunch of research on the subject, and the one thing I didn't like about all the videos is their failure to kind of prioritize, their failure to prioritize for people who aren't like psychotic about doing TBC prep, like getting 20,000 gold before going into TBC, or getting a bunch of stuff to auction house flip for TBC, or getting this or that in TBC. So I wanted to make a very quick video like prioritizing things for more of us normies, I should say. All right, so the first order of business is that fun is BIS. Fun is BIS, fun is BIS, fun is BIS. So there's basically like the quickest way to do things, the best way to do things, the most obsessive compulsive disorder, pre-prep way to do things. Then there's the fun way to do the funnest way to do things, and the funnest way to do things is always going to be subjective to you. And the funnest way to do things is always BIS. So if the OCD stuff and the prepping stuff, the buying a bunch of stuff off the auction house to flip during TBC, getting your honor capped, quest stacking, all that stuff. If all that stuff is fun for you, then by all means, that's going to be BIS for you, right? So that's kind of the elephant in the room, is that having fun is BIS. So, for example, I might start saying things like leveling as a deep rep paladin is wrong. You should be using Reckoning and mana per 5 gear if you're leveling in the open world. And you're going to be like, Palatime, screw that. I'm going to use attack power and Crusader Strike, and I'm going to go have fun. And I'll be like, okay, that is correct. If that is fun for you, that is correct. So just keep that in mind. All right, so the first thing that needs to be noted on the list of priority, where the hell is my quest log? There we go, is quest stacking. So basically, before TBC launches, both for your your Blood Elf Paladin, your Draenei Shaman, or for your level 60 boosted character, like whenever the hell, level 58 boosted, whenever the hell we get access to that. For just about any character you can make before the launch of TBC, if you can get them up to level 60, once you're level 60, the next best thing for you to do is to have a quest log absolutely stacked full of completed quests. Yeah, that's right. That's a turn-in one. Is to have a quest log full of completed quests ready to rock and roll for TBC, but then to also have a bunch of items in your bags. So like right here, for example, I don't have these quests, but I have the items to turn in. The 30 Savage Frond, the 20 Elemental Core, the, 30, it's all 30. 30 Crypt Fiend parts, 30 Bone Fragments, 30 Dark Iron ore. These are all quests for you to turn in, like item turn-ins in Light's Hope Chapel for like Nax Ramus or stuff like that. Each one of these will give me like a good chunk of experience. I've got 10 Twilight Scripts, even though I don't have that as a completed quest in my quest log, because that's just turn in Silithus. Same deal with the 10 Smoke Desert Dumplings. That's a turn in for quest in Silithus. Some of these things are here because they'll only be in my inventory if I actually have the quest and the quest log and completed. Basically, quest stacking is a combination of having items to turn in for quests immediately when TBC launches, and you can get the experience out of it, and having 20 out of 20 completed quests in your quest log. Now, the reason why this is the second best thing that you can possibly do, like the first best thing you can do is get a level 60 character, right? If you can get a level 60 character before TBC, get a level 60 character before TBC, like duh. And then the second best thing you can do is stack all these quests, because we don't know if the Helfire Peninsula and Outland is going to be a complete clusterfuck or not. So the problem with TBC as an expansion is that every player in the game is basically forced into the Helfire Peninsula, and Blizzard may or may not be able to or be smart enough to have like a million layers so that you can comfortably go into Helfire Peninsula and start questing, start getting the gear, get to level 62. It might just be like too many people in the Helfire Peninsula for anyone to effectively quest. There might be, if you're on a PvP server, it's going to be even worse than that, obviously. And so what this means is most guides will tell you to stay in classic World of Warcraft dungeons leveling, so like Skullomance, Strat Undead, Dire Maul dungeons. I honestly just do Stratholme. To stay in the classic World of Warcraft dungeons until you get to like level 62, level 63, and then once you're level 62, level 63, you can start questing in Terakar Forest or Zengwalar Marsh. You can get the hell off of the Helfire Peninsula, and things become a lot better. There's also dungeon issues that a lot of a lot of this information I don't know personally is correct or wrong. This is just me regurgitating stuff based upon my research on the subject. So you might be thinking, for example, oh, I'll just spam Hellfire Ramparts and a Blood Furnace for experience. Once I get level 63, I'll go into Zengwalar March and Terakar Forest. Also, you'll have access to slave pens and Underbog at that point in time, so you can continue spamming dungeons, and that's kind of your plan to get to avoid an issue where questing in the open world is difficult. What the guides say online about this is that Hellfire Ramparts is so quick and easy to clear, especially when people have gear, and we'll talk about how everyone's going to have gear in a second. That you're going to hit the raid lockout, and you're going to be kind of forced to do a lot of Blood Furnace, because Blood Furnace is longer. Because you can only do like 5 dungeons an hour, right? And then they talk about how Blood Furnace really sucks for XP per hour because there's a lot of scripted events and blah, 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 blah. There's not a high concentration of mobs. The loot kind of sucks in Blood Furnace and yada, yada, yada. It's really slave pens and underbogs where dungeon farming starts getting really good, both from like a reward perspective and from a XP per hour perspective. And then later you have access to the Mana Tombs and the Crypts and I forget the other ones, like Shethek Halls. That's really good for rep rewards and so forth and so on, right? But by far the easiest thing to do is for you to quest stack and then to turn in all these quests and basically get level 62 immediately, and then start questing in Terakar Forest and Zengwalar Marsh, literally getting ahead of the pack of normie players due to the quest stacking. And then you can do all the quests in Zengwalar Marsh and Terakar Forest, and then you can start going into the dungeon. So option B, of course, is to quest stack and basically examine your options from there, whether you're going into slave pens, underbog, or doing questing in the open world is available, because not a lot of people actually did quest stacking. Okay, so priority-wise, have fun is number 1. Then it becomes get level 60. Then it becomes quest stacking to get the hell out of the Helfire Peninsula as quickly as possible. Then I think we're on the 4th. The 4th best thing for you to do in pre-patch is to get your Marshals Gear. The reason for this is because during the pre-patch, you don't need rank 14 to get Marshals Gear anymore. You only need honor from PvPing in order to get access to basically AQ40 level quality gear. And we'll talk about what pieces of gear are good for you to go into Outland with, and which ones you can do without. But the other reason for honor grinding, I'm going to crank it up to level like 70 here for a second. The other reason for honor grinding during the pre-patch is once you hit level 70, you can get access to the level 70 Grand Marshal's Gear, which is like 115 item level. Karazhan items, for the record, are 115 item level. So this Grand Marshal's gear that you can buy for honor at level 70 is extremely useful for filling out any holes in your gear, and a lot of this may or may not even be on your pre-raid BIS list. If you're a PvPer like me, you're going to want to get a full suit of the level 70's Grand Marshal's gear before you even step into Arena. So you're basically going to be forced to doing a lot of PvP. But basically, all the level 60 Grand Marshal's gear turns into purchasable with honor points only when the pre-patch launches. There's also an honor cap you can have that is restricted based upon your level. So according to some of the guides, I can stack enough honor on my level 60 paladin that I'll be able to afford like 2 or 3 pieces of the Grand Marshal's gear once I hit level 70. And at that point, I would need to go do battlegrounds and world PvP in order to buy the other, in order to get enough honor to buy the other Grand Marshal's pieces. So a lot of people are going to be PvPing in the pre-patch due to a combination of wanting to buy the Grand Marshal's honor on their fresh, like, you know, Blood Elf Paladin, their fresh Draenei Shaman. But a lot of people like me who already have the Grand Marshal's gear are going to be doing it just to get the honor cap so that once we hit level 70, we can buy some of the level 70 Grand Marshal's gear. Now, take a drink of water here. Since you're going to be torn between these two things most likely. So as a level 60 dwarf paladin, I get to basically do a bunch of things ahead of time, right? I can do a bunch of quest stacking ahead of time. I can do a bunch of I can already get my Grand Marshal's gear, which I already have. I can already get, like maybe I'm in tier 2, maybe I'm in Avengers gear. God forbid I'm in Naxxramas gear. There's all kinds of things I can do ahead of time that come the pre-patch. My only thing to do in the pre-patch is going to be to stack up as much honor as possible. However, for a lot of players, you're going to find yourself in a situation where not only do you have to get to level 60, but you might be like, oh, well, I have a level 60 alt, and rather than doing the rank 14 grind, I'm just going to, you know, get a bunch of honor for the Marshal's gear before I go into Outland. And on top of that, I might want to try to max out my honor in the pre-patch. So that's a lot of PvP to do. It's a lot of PvP to do for a level 60 fresh alt you might be leveling right now. Or have sitting away waiting for the honor system to change over. Let alone a fresh, like, Blood Elf Paladin or a Blood Elf Draenei, like, you know, dear God. So, if you're forced to pick and choose between what is worth spending your honor points on and what is not worth spending your honor points on, it's really going to vary based upon your class. But virtually without exception, your Marshal's gear is worth the equivalent of, like, level 77 gear in the grand scheme of things. So your Grand Marshal's longsword, so if I scroll up to, like, level 67 here, and I click on this weapon, and we just find, like, a random green item. Let's go of the soldier. There we go. A random green item in Outland. You can see that the damage is virtually identical between these two items. Even the stamina and the attack power, like, you know, all the things you really care about as far as weapons are concerned. Your Grand Marshal's weapons are the equivalent of, like, a level 67 green item in Outland. They're not quite the same level, obviously, as the blue items. But to be honest, these are like 115 level blue items, and I can't even tell you for certain that these aren't heroic dungeon items. Like, I have no idea if this is heroic or not. 115 item level sure as hell seems pretty fucking heroic to me. So, for example, you got like the Throne of Blood. That's a very popular one for an item. One-handed mace. This is spell power and healing, so that's not really useful. That's also something that's not very useful. Okay, so here's a 103 item level axe. Blue, 62 DPS. You know, stamina, critical strike. No matter how you look at it, it's going to be a long-ass time before you're replacing the Grand Marshal's weapons. And for a lot of classes in the game, even at level 67 and even with the blue items being on paper better, the attack speed variety of the Grand Marshal's weapons is usually enough to push it over the top. So, for example, you've got really fast one-handed weapons. You've got really slow one-handed weapons. You got a mix of really good two-handed weapons. The two-handed weapons are a lot slower than what you're going to find in Outland. The Outland two-handed weapons tend to be running like 3.6 speed, whereas the Grand Marshal's weapons are like 3.8 speed. And if you're like, you know, pushing Mortal Strike or Crusader Strike or whatever the hell, slower the better. So there's a lot of reasons why the Grand Marshal's weapons are totally worth it to spend your honor points on, if you're going to spend your honor points on anything before you go into the Outland. The other thing about leveling for most classes in Outland is that having as little downtime as possible is usually king, both for your DPS in dungeons and for your DPS in the open world. The only exception to this is Paladin tanking. They're kind of their own little unique thing. So, for example, your Shaman in Outland, whether you're an enhancement shaman or you're a resto shaman or you are a elemental shaman, whether you're DPS healing in dungeons or you're questing in the open world, mana regeneration for you is going to be by far your best stat. So, for example, with the enhancement shaman, you might be using shamanistic rage and a bunch of the soldier gear because it's got like a bunch of attack power on it, and all that attack power converts into not only melee DPS and spell power for you because of your talents, but it also converts into MP5 from shamanistic rage, and the soldier gear is just really, really fucking good for you as a shaman. But if you're like an elemental shaman, the elder gear, the MP5 gear is some of your best gear. And for a lot of classes in the game, mana regeneration is basically king. So the only reason that the enhancement shaman isn't wearing of the elder gear is because the shamanistic rage ability exists, and he can convert attack power into MP5. But if you're a class basically that uses a mana bar to do things, and you're not wearing a MP5 on your gear or spirit on your gear, like whatever kind of mana regeneration you synergize best with, while you're DPSing in dungeons or while you're healing in dungeons or while you're leveling in the open world, you're technically probably doing it wrong. You're being less, there better be a goddamn good reason in your talent tree for or your skill set as to why the hell we don't have MP5 on our gear. This raises some interesting questions about what pieces are best for Marshals Gear to go into Outland. So you'll notice that on Paladin here specifically, some of my most of my Marshals Gear has spell power and MP5 on it. So specifically, my gloves do not have spell power and MP5. My leggings do not have spell power and MP5. But every other piece of Marshals Gear I have has a combination of stamina, intellect, spell power, MP5. Stamina, intellect, spell power, MP5. Stamina, intellect, spell power, MP5. Well, I can tell you right now that if I'm tanking a dungeon as a paladin, I want as much spell power and armor as I can get my hands on. I got to make a separate video for tanking dungeons as paladin. But for paladin, if I'm tanking a dungeon, I want as much spell power and armor as I can get my hands on. And then my mana regeneration becomes the secondary, the tertiary, the third major priority. However, if I'm leveling out in the open world, or if I'm DPSing in a dungeon, or if I'm healing in a dungeon, just like every other class in the entire game that uses a mana bar, my mana is my number one source of damage, so I want a thick mana bar number one. I also want mana because intellect is basically part of your regeneration stat in TBC. So intellect becomes kind of your BIS stat for any mana using DPS in class, no matter what you're doing. Again, Paladin's the special exception, but even they want a thick mana bar. Just because the intellect is also acting like a half-ass spirit regeneration stat. Then you probably want MP5 on your gear, and then you want spell power on your gear. And the fact that some of your Marshals gear basically comes with intellect, spell power, and MP5, it basically has all the stats that you kind of want on any class with a mana bar in the entire game. Any piece of Marshals gear that has MP5 on it is basically going to be worth its weight in gold. If you have like Avengers gear, if you have like tier 2 gear, God forbid if you have Nax Ramus gear, that's also going to be good for obvious reasons. It's going to have stamina, intellect, spirit, spell power, MP5. It's going to have everything. That's the gear that you really want to take into Outland. You're not going to be replacing that gear until level 65 and level 67 and beyond, just like the weapons is what I'm trying to say. The reason for this is because TBC does a lot of forcing you to choose. So it'll have gear like Physician, so that's like, stamina, intellect, plus healing, but no MP5. It'll have Prophet, which is intellect, spirit, and then plus healing, but no spell power on either of these or MP5. You'll have Soldier gear, which is really good compared to the Marshals gear. Let's do a different comparison. Let's find something with MP5. Okay, let's use this chest piece here. Level 67, random green piece of chest piece. Yeah, so we have this Sorcerer's gear here that does way more spell power than my chest piece, but it doesn't have MP5 on it, and the other stats don't really compensate for the fact that there's no MP5. There's also no critical strike rating on it, which is kind of like, okay, so the Marshals gear is just better. It's a more well-rounded gear piece, and therefore it's just a better gear piece. The more the stats are spread out, due to the way Classic WoW itemization works, the more the stats are spread out all over the place. It's just going to give you more bang for your buck. If I look at the Elder gear here, for example, which is the MP5, the Elder gear has way more fucking MP5. Like, it's got twice as much MP5 as this piece of plate gear. But it doesn't have like a spell power on it or critical strike, and it's just kind of like, man, okay. So your Marshals gear is still really fucking good compared to this of the Elder gear, this level 67 of the Elder gear. If I compare it to, I want to compare it to Soldier, but I guess the plate gear doesn't have it. That's kind of annoying. This might not be plate gear. This might be mail gear. Okay, so I need to go find some mail gear, and that'll have, let's do another example, because basically some of these gears have different stat prioritizations based upon whether it's cloth or whether it's mail or whether it's leather. So, for example, Soldier mail gear exists, but Soldier plate gear doesn't seem to exist. And then the Heterofant gear exists for leather. You can see it's got a spirit stat rather than an intellect stat. That's because in the leather wearing talent trees, they can convert spirit into spell power. They can also maintain some of their spirit mana regeneration per 5 even while casting. So this weird Hedofant gear exists. Gorilla gear is not super bad while you're leveling on your Paladin prior to level 60. But I want to find a piece of mail gear so we compare it to Soldier gear. Soldier? Okay, cool. So then we look at like this level 67 piece of Soldier gear where it's like, strength, stamina, critical strike. That's a lot of crit, right? It's like twice as much crit. But no spell power, no intellect, no MP5. The Marshals gear is basically just better. Then you might be asking, okay, well, what about like blue item pieces you can get while you're leveling? And it's like, okay, this is a piece of plate mail gear, like, 45 strength. That's a lot of fucking strength. Then you got like 16 intellect. Then you got like mana per 5. Pretty fucking good piece of gear, especially when you factor in that's got like 150 more armor. But then you're like, okay, well, it's not. It's missing 25 fucking plus healing. It's missing some critical strike. It's what I'm trying to say is the Marshals Gear is still extremely competitive, right? It's still extremely competitive. It's still extremely competitive. It's still extremely competitive. The only piece of Marshals Gear or piece of chest plate gear that I was able to find was actually Helfire Peninsula. This is for Paladin specifically, so I'm going to click it on over to... was it? No, it wasn't. There's some stuff off the auction house where it's like, random blue gear, random enchant, like this of the Sorcerer's Gear, the of the Elder Gear. The problem is that TBC is basically forcing you to choose a higher level of concentration of stats. It's basically forcing you to choose between like 3, maybe 4 stats, whereas the Marshal Gear is going to be like, yeah, I'm going to give you like 8 fucking stats. And because of the way stat prioritization works in Classic World of Warcraft, it just means you're going to have more of everything that you probably want, but not as much of any specific thing that you want. Moral of the story is just get some of the Marshal's Gear, especially if it's got MP5 on it. But just be aware that some of the Marshal's Gear is worth purchasing, some of the armor. The weapons are almost guaranteed to be worth it for you to purchase on a fresh character, but a lot of the armor pieces are also totally worth it. You'll take those all the way to level 70, and you won't even bother to replace them. It's not light. Yeah, I think it's the Gilded Crimson. This was the only chest piece that I could find that that's even worth taking as a paladin over the Marshal's chest plate. And the reason for this is just because it's bringing way more spell power to the table. So this is a better chest piece for tanking dungeons because it's giving me more spell power, right? But other than that, everything else is worse. So we've got less stats. We got no critical strike on this thing, and its only claim to fame is we got less armor. Its only claim to fame is that it's got a bit more spell power on it. So be advised that if you're going to spend your honor points on anything, weapons is number 1. What the? Okay, cool. We'll deal with that later. The weapons is the first thing to purchase. Then there's some Marshals pieces, usually the ones with MP5 on them, if you have a mana bar, that are going to be objectively worth purchasing for you to take into Outland. You're not going to replace those until you're like damn near level 70. But if you have to, like, if you hate PvP 6 Ways from Sunday, it's probably better for you to use the blues off the auction house, the blues that you're going to get in the dungeon. Fill it out with some of the green gear off the auction house that's specifically good for you. What I'm trying to say is that it's going to be hard for you to get away with not having the Marshal's weapons, but you can get away with not having the Marshal's armor. And it's probably better for you that if some of your level 70 Grand Marshal's gear is like your pre-raid BIS gear, and you hate PvP, to just ignore these Marshal pieces, the armor pieces specifically. Get the weapon, ignore the armor pieces, and just have a shit ton of armor for you to buy those pieces, honor, for you to buy those pieces at level 70 that are like your pre-raid BIS. Those are kind of your options. All right, cool. So other than that, other than the class stacking to get the hell off of the Helfire Peninsula, or basically saying, screw that, I'll just live in the dungeons, the other thing that you can do that a lot of people are going to do, which is not a bad idea whatsoever, is to just take it nice and slow during TBC. Like, okay, everyone's like, crammed in the Helfire Peninsula and trying to level in Hellfire is a fucking nightmare. Okay, cool. Well, I'll just, not play TBC very much for like a week. I'll just keep leveling my my Blood Elf Paladin or my Draenei Shaman for a week. Like, no big deal. By the time I get out into Helfire Peninsula, It'll be nice and cool and comfy. I'll have plenty of gold from taking it nice and slow that I can just, buy some early gear off the auction house to go into TBC. I don't have to do any of the Grand Marshal stuff. But this is basically like, what you're going to do, like, planning out your preparation. So the last thing, of course, on the list is, to go slower. That's not the worst battle plan in the world. What else is there to say? I think in TBC, I also got these Dranite crystals. Let's talk about some weird quest stacking stuff that I learned. So there's a guy to turn in the Dranite crystals, like right here. You can purchase. It's basically just a starts a quest type deal. So just buy one off the auction house really cheap for like 5 gold. Turn it into him for a good bit of XP. It's on your way to get to the dark portal anyways. Whoop de fucking do. But there's also a bunch of quests and like burning steps. There was like one quest in the burning steps that took me into like right here that had me go LBRS. There's a small quest chain that's going to take me to kill the first boss in Lower Blackrock's, not Lower Blackrock, Blackrock Depths. Suck his, like, fiery heart out of him or something. Worth a good chunk of experience there. Then there's like 3 quests or 4 quests over here that send you into like Lower Blackrock Spire. Those are basically totally worth it. You can see all this stuff in the quest log right here. Let's go find it really quickly. So these were the ones that basically sent me into the quest. So, get some spider eggs, get like a pet wolf, put down some giant wolf in Lower Blackrock Spire, and then milk the venom out of a dude for a bunch of experience there. You can tell how much experience you're going to get by how much gold you're going to get, very roughly. This Taste of Flame thing is the one that's sending me to the first boss in PRD to kill him. It's the boss nobody does. It's like you enter the dungeon and you take a hard left, and it's the elemental boss right there. But you can see that's going to be worth a good chunk of experience. And if I pull back up the map, all those that quest was found right here, and then like 4 of these quests were like found right here, and there's like 1 quest like over here that sent me into Lower Blackrock Spire. But other than that, there's like basically a bunch of quests out in Silithus for you to do that you can quest stack. There's a bunch of quests at Lights Hope Chapel that you can quest stack, and there's like an asshole out here that you basically just have to ride to and have a conversation with, and it's really simple. That quest, I do believe, is one of the non-completed quests. The Restless Souls quest, like, a good chunk of experience just for riding out and talking to a guy. What else is there to say? Yeah, so anyways, that's kind of my TLDR of everything I learned about in the videos. The buying a bunch of stuff to flip them buying a bunch of stuff off the auction house to flip them for bonus gold later is a thing that you can do, but only do that if it floats your boat. There's an upside and a downside to getting too much gold before you go into TBC. The upside is you have a bunch of gold in TBC. The downside is that you have nothing to fucking do while you're in TBC, and you could get bored, which is why I'm not bothering to get too much gold to go before I go into TBC, because I like moat farming on a PvP server. I like mining. I like the PvPing, all that stuff. I like needing something to do in TBC to get my gold. You can also get your profession sorted out and buy a bunch of stuff for it. So I'm going to search Dream Dust in the auction house right now. I have no idea if the price of Dream Dust is going to fluctuate. But right now I've been trying to buy it for under 40 silver on the server. Not for flipping purposes, but eventually I'm going to need the level to be an engineer, so I can get my ring enchants. I'm going to be like a jewel crafting engineer. Right now my paladin is 300 mining before I go out into TBC, because I know good spots to mine in TBC. My big thing to do in TBC is There's a little cave in Zangular Marsh that is really good for logging out mining. There's like 2 fell iron nodes and 1 adamantite node that spawn in that cave. And the cave is so full of mobs that it's really hard for bots to get into. Bots on a PvP server, they do not like to go into caves. To get any kind of mining done, they prefer to fly around, land, mine. If they get killed, they get killed. It's really hard to report a player doing that for botting, right? But once they go into caves and they have to deal with a bunch of mobs and they have to deal with enemy PvPers, they get reported a lot. They get banned a lot, and it's really bad for their botting escapades. So some of the best places to mine or to farm herbs are in areas where only human players are going to go, which is usually inside caves. And just log out mining is a big thing I like doing in TBC before the PvP starts getting super serious. Once I do have the PvP gear, like once I am geared, then the moat farming is by far the funnest thing for me to do. I'm a big fan of moat farming in it's Shadow something. Is it like Shadow Moon Valley? I think that's the name of the zone. It's where the Black Temple is. There's some water elementals out there that are really good for AoE farming for paladins if no one's messing with you PvP wise, but if people are messing with you PvP wise, it's still a really good farm and a really good source of PvP. There's also a bunch of fire elementals to farm in that zone for moats, which is a really good source for PvP. Bots usually don't like to try to farm moats. They like to fall out of the sky and try to harvest herbs, and mining nodes is usually what they'll do. The old world is really good for farming as well. You will run into bots trying to farm the old world, but because there's no flying, a lot of really good places, there's a lot of good farming spots in the old world as a level 70 whatever. The big one I like to do as a paladin is, what is it? I like to mine thorium nodes, rich thorium nodes in Silithus inside the hives, because I have like a plus 15% movement speed bonus, and that's apparently equal to the movement speed of level 60 mobs in Classic World of Warcraft, so I can literally outrun the mobs a lot of the times to get access to the thorium nodes. And you're like, tanky and DPS oriented enough that... Also, I think I vaguely remember that... Bear with me here. The elite Silithid mobs inside the hives in Silithus turn into non-elite mobs. I vaguely remember that being the case. But either way, you can kill them pretty quickly, and you can fight over the thorium nodes. It's also a really great place. The bots don't really like going in there. When you do end up with other people in there, it's always a good PvP because they're like humans. Fighting paladins in tight confined spaces is usually a death sentence to most classes. So like paladins basically become Super Saiyan and very effective at what it is at PvP when they're forced to run through when the situation is both you and your enemy are forced to run through a bunch of mobs to get somewhere or to get out of somewhere. And on top of that, it's a tight, confined space with a lot of LOS. So inside caves, underground, inside buildings, that is one place you do not want to run into a fucking paladin. Especially if they run through a bunch of mobs. Because the paladin is not going to care that there's a bunch of mobs attacking him. If anything, it like buffs him. Whereas the enemy player is going to take a lot of damage and get slowed all over the place due to being attacked by the mobs. And then the tight confined space just doesn't benefit people. So there are places that I can go as a paladin that I'm painfully aware that I have an advantage, both PvP and PvE, and I can compete with the bots, if that makes any sense. Anyways, that's my thoughts on the subject. I'm going to end the video here. The other thing that I'm probably going to go do on my Paladin is there's still a lot of, like, Unguro Crater consumables that you can stack. So, for example, there's these crystal ward things here, which will give me, like, 200 armor for 30 minutes. That's really fucking good. I don't know if they stack with the scrolls that you can get off the auction house. But, the fact that they exist is really cool. Really what I'm after is the Crystal Spire here. Doing 12 reflect damage to everything that's hitting me is, like, super good. If I'm doing any kind of AoE anything, or if I'm, like, taking in a dungeon or whatnot. There's just a bunch of little buffs that I can stack up before I go out into TBC. Food buffs and whatnot. But I just wanted to make a quick video. I never make quick videos. I just wanted to make a quick video about the most important things. And by far the most important things is the quest stacking. Well, okay, I take it back. The most important thing is to have fun. The second most important thing is that if you're not going to take it slow, then quest stacking is the way to go. And then once it's like have fun, get to level 60. If you're not going to take it slow, then quest stack. If you have even more additional free time to prepare for TBC past that point, getting honor and spending it on gear is your next best thing to do. Then the next best thing to do is to get honor caps so that when you're level 70, you can purchase some a really good gear for yourself. And then, like, the next best thing to do is basically just to take it slow. Taking it slow is a legitimate strategy for prepping your character for TBC. I shit you not. Part of the reason is because you're gonna taking it slow and quest stacking are basically going to accomplish the exact same thing. Taking it slow and having access to good gear is also going to be virtually identical, because it's much easier for you to get on the auction house and buy a bunch of the really good blue gear off the auction house, which is, as we saw, kind of comparable to the Grand Marshal's gear. Not to mention, taking it slow, you'll have quite a bit more gold than you otherwise would have if you're not taking it slow at all. What else is there to say about taking it slow? People will be much better geared than you once you're level 70, so it's going to be a lot easier for you to be carried in heroic dungeons and so forth and so on. So there's an advantage to taking it slow there, if that makes any sense. Also, when you're taking it slow, you're going to be leveling with other people who have alts. So their alts will be usually quite well funded and quite well geared off the auction house as well. What am I trying to say here? There is an ocean of difference, okay, between me trying to tank a dungeon as a paladin in shit gear while everybody else has Marshal's gear or better, and me trying to tank a dungeon with everyone having Marshal's gear or better, but I also have Marshal's gear, right? No one's going to look at me in my Marshal's gear and be like, oh, he doesn't have Naxxramas gear, kick him out of the dungeon. They're going to be perfectly happy with a Marshal's geared paladin tank that actually knows what the fuck he's doing. The same might not be sayable for I'm trying to tank or heal a dungeon in TBC and everybody else has Marshal's gear except I'm, like, basically in dog shit greens because I didn't do any prep. That's a combination of you not doing any prep before going into TBC and not taking it slow, right? Taking it slow solves that problem because everyone else is going to have, like, equally shitty gear to you, which balances out a lot of the roles in a dungeon. But if you're in shitty gear and everybody else is in Marshal's gear, don't be surprised if they kick your ass out of the dungeon group. Because they're like, this guy can't tank, get him the hell out of here, he doesn't have the gear. This guy can't heal, he doesn't have the gear, get him the hell out of here. This guy's DPS is going to suck, he doesn't have the Grand Marshal's weapons, get him the hell out of here, right? They're going to think you're a slacker, and kind of rightly so, and they're going to kind of throw your ass out. The easiest solution to that, of course, is to take it slow, because all those guys are gonna, like, shoot ahead of you in the level. Yeah. So anyways, I wanted to end the video here, and Deus Vult.